Tauxon stood in the briefing hall with 300 other soldiers, watching the holographic display rotate slowly in the center of the room. The planet looked unremarkable. Blue and green with white clouds drifting across its surface. The humans called it Earth. "This will be a simple operation," Commander Corvash announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. "The inhabitants are primitive. No energy shields, no plasma weapons. They still use chemical propulsion for most of their vehicles." Laughter rippled through the assembled soldiers. Tauxon allowed himself a small smile. In his 40 cycles of service to the Vrexian Empire, he had conquered 7 worlds. This would be the 8th. The easiest one yet, from the sound of it? "Intelligence reports indicate the humans have fractured governments," Corvash continued. "They fight among themselves constantly. They have short lifespans, barely reaching 80 of their years. Their bodies are weak. They require constant nutrition and water. They cannot survive in most atmospheric conditions without artificial support." Another officer raised his hand. "What resistance should we expect, Commander?" "Minimal," Corvash replied. "Perhaps some scattered military units. But without orbital superiority, they cannot coordinate any meaningful defense. We estimate total pacification within 3 planetary rotations. 3 days." Tauxon had seen longer campaigns against species far less advanced than the Vrexians, but never had he seen one end so quickly. This would be more of a training exercise than a real war. The briefing continued with tactical details. Tauxon S Battalion would land near a major human military installation in a region they called the Pacific Northwest. Dense forests covered the area, perfect for preventing human forces from regrouping. The Vrexians would establish a forward base, then push outward in expanding circles until all resistance collapsed. "Remember," Corvash said as the briefing ended, "we are not here to exterminate them. The Empire needs workers, not corpses. Subdue them. Break their will to fight. The humans will learn their place in the galactic order." Tauxon returned to his quarters and began preparing his equipment. His rifle had ended the lives of hundreds of enemy combatants across multiple worlds. His armor had deflected countless attacks. His tactical computer contained battle data from every major engagement in the sector. He was a professional. A veteran? This would be routine work. The journey to Earth took 12 days. The fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. Immediately, the orbital bombardment began. Tauxon watched from the viewing deck as brilliant flashes of light erupted across the planet's surface. Each flash represented a human military base, a command center, or a communications hub being destroyed. "They are trying to respond," one of the ship's officers said, pointing to the tactical display. "Launching primitive missiles? Chemical rockets." The Vrexian point defense systems eliminated the missiles effortlessly. It was like swatting insects. "Their largest military powers are attempting to coordinate," another officer reported. "Multiple communication signals detected. They are afraid." Of course they were afraid, Tauxon thought. Any species would be terrified watching their world burn from space. He had seen it before. The fear would turn to despair. The despair would turn to surrender. It always did. The first wave of dropships launched on the 3rd day of orbital bombardment. Tauxon checked his squad one final time. 20 soldiers under his direct command, all experienced, all prepared. They boarded the dropship with the efficiency of routine. "Estimated time to landing? 18 minutes, the pilot announced. Tauxon activated his tactical display. The target area appeared a human military base designated Installation 7 by Vrexian intelligence. According to scans, approximately 2,000 human soldiers remained at the base. Most of the facility had been damaged in the orbital strikes, but the humans had not evacuated. "Stubborn," Tauxon S. second-in-command remarked. "They should have run." "They do not understand what they face," Tauxon replied. "They will learn." The dropship descended through the atmosphere. Tauxon felt the familiar vibration as they hit the thicker air. Around them, 40 other dropships carried the rest of the battalion. 200 Vrexian soldiers against 2,000 humans. But the Vrexians had superior weapons, superior armor, superior training. The numbers did not concern Talcson. 60 seconds to landing, the pilot said, then alarms started screaming. Missile lock. Multiple missile locks. The dropship lurched violently to the left. Through the viewport, Talcson saw 3 other dropships explode in mid-air, torn apart by human anti-aircraft fire. Evasive maneuvers, the pilot shouted, his calm demeanor gone. They have more active defenses than intelligence reported. The ship dropped rapidly, throwing Talcson against his harness. Another dropship exploded off their port side. And another. The humans were shooting them out of the sky. Crash landing. Brace for impact. The dropship hit the ground hard. Talcson's teeth rattled in his skull. The rear hatch blew open, smoke pouring into the troop compartment. Training took over. He released his harness, grabbed his rifle, and rushed toward the exit. Outside was chaos. 5 dropships had made it to the ground intact. The rest were burning wreckage scattered across the landing zone. Vrexian soldiers poured out of the surviving ships, taking defensive positions. Talcson's tactical display showed dozens of red indicators, casualties before the ground battle had even begun. "Form up," he shouted to his squad. "Establish a perimeter." The landing zone was a clearing in the forest, roughly 200 meters across. Trees surrounded them on all sides. Tall, thick trees that blocked the sensors and provided countless places for enemies to hide. "Contact!" Someone screamed. Weapons fire erupted from the tree line. Not the energy weapons Talcson expected from a military force, but chemical projectiles, bullets, primitive but effective at close range. A Vrexian soldier next to him took 3 rounds to the chest. His armor held, but the impact knocked him down. "Return fire," Talcson ordered. The Vrexian plasma rifles hummed to life, sending bolts of superheated energy into the forest. Trees exploded. The ground scorched. But the human fire did not stop. It intensified. "They are everywhere." His second-in-command shouted. "I count at least 500 heat signatures in the forest." Talcson's tactical computer struggled to track the targets. The humans were moving fast, using the terrain expertly. They would fire from one position, then disappear before the Vrexians could target them effectively. A human war cry echoed through the trees. Not words that Talcson's translator could interpret, just raw sound, aggressive, fearless. "They are not retreating," Talcson said, more to himself than anyone else. "Why are they not retreating?" His second-in-command looked at him, fear visible in his eyes. "They outnumber us now. We lost 30% of our force in the landing." Talcson accessed the command channel. Other battalions were reporting similar losses. The human anti-aircraft defenses had been far more effective than anticipated. Across the entire landing operation, the Vrexian force had been reduced by nearly half before the ground fighting even began. "All units, hold positions," Commander Korvash's voice came through the communication system. "Reinforcements will arrive within 6 hours. 6 hours. Talcson looked at the forest, watching muzzle flashes in the darkness between the trees. The sun was setting. Night was coming. And the humans were not afraid. For the first time in his 40 cycles of service, Talcson felt something unfamiliar settle in his chest. Something cold and uncomfortable. He was not sure if they would last 6 hours. Night fell over the forest like a curtain. Talcson's thermal vision activated automatically, painting the world in shades of red and blue. The Vrexian defensive perimeter had shrunk to just 100 meters across. Botas of both species littered the ground between the landing zone and the tree line. "Movement northeast quadrant," one of his soldiers reported. Talcson swung his rifle toward the indicated position. His scope showed 3 human soldiers advancing through the underbrush. They moved differently than any enemy he had faced before. Not cautiously, but deliberately. They knew the Vrexians could see them, yet they advanced anyway. "Fire," Talcson ordered. Plasma bolts lit up the darkness. 2 of the humans went down. The third dove behind a fallen log and continued shooting. His weapon, some kind of automatic rifle, sent a stream of bullets toward the Vrexian position. The rounds bounced off their energy shields, but the psychological effect was undeniable. This human would not stop. "Target neutralized," a soldier reported after finally hitting the human with a direct shot. But even as that human fell, more appeared from different directions. They were probing the Vrexian defenses, testing for weaknesses. And they were doing it in the darkness, in terrain they knew intimately. "They should need rest," Tauxon S. second-in-command said. "Our intelligence indicated humans require 8 hours of sleep per day cycle." "Then our intelligence was wrong," Tauxon replied grimly. A human voice suddenly echoed through the forest, amplified by some kind of speaker system. The translator struggled with it, but eventually rendered it into Vrexian. "You came to our home. You burned our cities. You killed our families. We will not rest until every last one of you is gone." The voice belonged to someone in command, someone who spoke with absolute certainty. "Commander Corvash, this is Battalion 7, Tauxon transmitted. "We require immediate reinforcement. The humans are not behaving according to predicted patterns." "All battalions are engaged," Corvash responded. "Hold your position. Reinforcements will arrive at dawn." Dawn was 6 hours away. The attacks continued throughout the night. The humans never launched a full assault. They did not need to. They simply kept the Vrexians pinned down, preventing them from resting, slowly wearing down their shields and their nerves. Dotted hour 3. Tauxon witnessed something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. A group of 5 humans attacked the western perimeter. Vrexian fire wounded 3 of them immediately. Standard military doctrine for any species said the wounded should be left behind to slow down the attackers. The remaining soldiers should retreat and regroup. The humans did not follow. Standard doctrine, the 2 unwounded humans grabbed their fallen comrades and dragged them back toward the tree line. They did this while under heavy fire. One of the rescuers took a plasma bolt to the leg. He fell screaming in pain, but did not let go of the wounded soldier he was dragging. "Finish them," Tauxon ordered. Disturbed by the display, his soldiers concentrated fire on the retreating humans. They killed one of the rescuers and wounded the others. But even then, even as they were dying, the humans kept trying to pull their companions to safety. "Why?" His second-in-command whispered. "They are dead. Why do they sacrifice themselves for the dead?" Tauxon had no answer. Dawn arrived with no respite. The Vrexian force had lost another 20 soldiers during the night. They were down to fewer than 100 combat-effective troops. The humans had suffered higher casualties. Thermal scans showed dozens of bodies in the forest, but they had also achieved their objective. The Vrexians were exhausted, demoralized, and trapped. "Reinforcements arriving," the communication officer announced. 10 drop ships descended, this time with heavy fighter escort. The humans tried to shoot them down, but succeeded in destroying only 2. The reinforcements landed, bringing Tauxon S' effective force back up to 200 soldiers. "We advance at noon," Commander Corvash ordered. "Push through the forest. Establish control of the region. Show these primitives what real military power looks like." Tauxon wanted to protest. Every instinct told him that advancing into that forest was a mistake. But orders were orders. He was a soldier. At noon, the Vrexian force left the relative safety of the landing zone and entered the forest. The humans were waiting. They had prepared the battlefield with terrifying efficiency. Every tree could hide a sniper. Every depression in the ground could conceal a fighting position. The Vrexians advanced with proper spacing and tactical discipline, but it did not matter. The forest belonged to the humans. Sniper. Northwest, 300 meters. A Vrexian officer's head exploded before he could react. The shooter somewhere in the dense foliage had made an impossible shot through multiple layers of vegetation. Suppress that position. Plasma fire turned the area into an inferno. Trees burned. The ground melted. When the firing stopped, the Vrexians advanced to find nothing. The human sniper had displaced to a new position. This pattern repeated itself for hours. Advance, take fire, suppress the position, advance again. The Vrexians were moving forward, but at terrible cost, and they never saw their attackers until it was too late. At hour 4 of the advance, they found the first human defensive position. It was a medical station barely hidden behind a natural ridge. 3 humans were there, 2 wounded, and 1 medic treating them. "Surrender!" Talcson shouted in human language, using his translator. "You cannot win." The medic's uniform identified him as Young-Soo looked up calmly. He did not reach for a weapon. Instead, he continued bandaging one of the wounded soldiers. "We do not surrender on our soil," Young-Soo said quietly. "You are the invaders. Leave, and we will let you live." The absurdity of it struck Talcson. This human, surrounded by overwhelming force, was offering him mercy, him, a warrior of the Vrexian Empire. "You have 3 wounded here," Talcson said, anger rising in his voice. "You are outgunned. You will all die." "Perhaps," Young-Soo agreed. "But you will remember us." Before Talcson could respond, one of his soldiers opened fire out of fear or anger. The plasma bolt hit one of the wounded humans, killing him instantly. Young-Soo dove for cover but was struck in the shoulder. He fell, bleeding, but still alive. "Cease fire!" Talcson roared. "I did not give that order." But the damage was done. The other wounded human, despite having a shattered leg, pulled out a pistol and started shooting. He killed 1 Vrexian soldier before being cut down. Talcson approached Young-Soo, who was clutching his wounded shoulder. Blood red like Vrexian blood seeped between his fingers. "You need medical attention," Talcson said. "Then let me treat my patient," Young-Soo replied, nodding toward the remaining wounded soldier. "Your patient is my enemy. Your soldier shot first. I am a medic. I help the wounded, all wounded." Against all logic, Talcson found himself ordering his own medic to help the human. He told himself it was for intelligence purposes. They could interrogate a medic, learn about human defensive positions, but deep down he knew the truth. Something about Young-Soo's courage, his dedication to helping others even in the middle of a battle, had affected him. This human was a warrior, but a different kind of warrior than any Talcson had encountered. The Vrexian medic treated Young-Soo's wound while the human medic, despite being a prisoner, instructed them on human physiology. He did this calmly, professionally, as if they were colleagues rather than enemies. "Your species is remarkable," Talcson found himself saying. "You do not act like any opponent I have fought." "We are defending our home," Young-Soo said simply. "What would you do if aliens invaded your world? Would you surrender? Would you run?" Talcson had no answer. The advance continued. By nightfall, the Vrexian force had moved 2 kilometers into the forest. They had lost 40 more soldiers, and they still had not found the main human force. As darkness fell again, Talcson heard something that made his blood run cold. From multiple directions, from dozens of human positions scattered throughout the forest, came singing, human voices raised in some kind of war song. He could not understand the words, but he understood the meaning. The humans were not afraid. The humans were not tired. The humans were ready to fight all night again, and Talcson realized with growing horror that his soldiers were not. 72 hours into the ground campaign, Talcson had stopped counting individual engagements. The forest had become an endless nightmare of ambush, traps, and sudden violence. His battalion, which had started with 200 soldiers, was down to 120. The humans seemed to multiply like parasites. "Supply convoy is 3 hours late," his logistics officer reported. "Command says the humans have blocked the primary route." "What about the secondary route?" Talcson asked, exhaustion making his words heavy. "Also blocked. The humans have established ambush positions on every road leading to our sector." Talcson pulled up his tactical map. Red markers indicated known human positions. There were hundreds of them, scattered throughout the forest in a pattern that seemed random but clearly was not. The humans were using what their military called guerrilla warfare, small teams attacking supply lines, then disappearing before the Vrexians could respond. "We need those supplies," Talcson said. "Our energy packs are down to 40%. The men need food." "I will inform command," the logistics officer said quietly, but command had its own problems. Across the entire landing operation, the same pattern was repeating. The Vrexians could win individual battles, but they could not secure territory. The humans refused to be conquered. A private communication channel opened. Commander Talcson, this is Special Operations Team 3. We have captured a human operative. Bringing him to your position. 20 minutes later, they dragged the prisoner into the command post. He was young for a human, probably in his mid-20s by their reckoning. His uniform was torn and bloody. He had been wounded in the leg and shoulder, but his eyes remained defiant. Name, Talcson demanded. J. Hyan, the human replied in accented but understandable Vrexian. Corporal. Serial number 274359. We do not care about your serial number. We want to know about your defensive positions. Where are your command centers? Where do you store weapons? J. Hyan smiled through his pain. I cannot tell you that. Cannot or will not? Both. Talcson studied the human carefully. J. Hyan had been alone when captured, separated from his unit by 4 days. He had survived in the forest without support, evading Vrexian patrols while wounded. The medical scan showed he had been eating local plants and insects to survive. You are brave, Talcson admitted. Foolish, but brave. Your unit left you behind. No, J. Hyan said firmly. I ordered them to leave me. I was slowing them down. They had a mission to complete. What mission? J. Hyan just smiled again. 2 hours later, Talcson learned what that mission had been. A series of explosions rocked the forest. The Vrexian Forward Command Post 3 kilometers from Talcson-S position erupted in flames. Human special forces had infiltrated past multiple security checkpoints and destroyed the communication equipment. This is Commander Korvash, came the garbled transmission. All units, we have lost primary communication. Fall back to Rally Point Beta. I repeat, fall back to Rally Point Beta. The retreat had begun. Talcson organized his remaining soldiers into a defensive formation. Moving through hostile territory while under enemy observation was the most dangerous military operation possible. Every soldier knew it. Release the prisoner, Talcson ordered. His second-in-command stared at him in disbelief. Commander? He is wounded. He cannot fight? Keeping him will slow us down? Talcson did not mention the other reason, that J. Hyan had earned his respect. The human had refused to break. Even knowing his comrades had just attacked the Vrexians who held him, they left J. Hyan with medical supplies and water. As they departed, Talcson saw the human watching them go, confusion visible on his face. Perhaps he had expected execution. Perhaps he had expected torture. He clearly had not expected mercy. The retreat became a running battle that lasted 18 hours. The humans pursued them relentlessly. Not in a single mass formation, but in dozens of small teams. They hit the Vrexian column from every direction, never staying in one place long enough to be destroyed. Talcson recognized the tactics. His species had used similar strategies against primitive opponents, but now he was the one being hunted. The feeling was deeply unsettling. Contact rear, 3 enemy vehicles. Talcson turned to see human armored transports charging through the forest. They were old machines, probably designed decades ago, but they were fast and their weapons worked. The lead vehicle mounted some kind of automatic cannon that tore through Vrexian shields like they were nothing. Team, engage! Talcson shouted. His anti-tank soldiers fired their plasma launchers. One vehicle exploded. The second took a hit but kept coming. The third swerved around a massive tree and disappeared. Then he saw her. Human female stood in the open hatch of the surviving vehicle, operating the cannon with practiced efficiency. Her name tape reads Sujin. She was shooting and coordinating. Her driver at the same time, completely exposed to enemy fire, completely fearless. Take her out! Someone screamed, but Sujin's vehicle was already retreating, laying down suppressing fire that forced the Vrexians to take cover. By the time they could return fire effectively, she was gone. These humans are insane, Talcson-S second-in-command muttered. They have no sense of self-preservation. They are protecting their home, Talcson replied, echoing Young Su's words from days before. What would we do in their position? His second-in-command had no answer. The column kept moving. Behind them, the forest burned where the fighting had been most intense. Ahead, the rally point waited, a fortified position near the original landing zone. If they could reach it, they would have support from orbital weapons and heavy equipment, but the humans were not going to make it easy. At hour 12 of the retreat, they entered a valley that the tactical map showed as the fastest route to the rally point. Towson's instincts screamed at him that it was a trap, but they had no choice. The other routes would take twice as long, and his soldiers were already at their limit. They were halfway through the valley when the humans sprung the ambush. Explosives detonated on both ridges simultaneously. Rocks and debris rained down on the column. Then the shooting started. Dozens of human soldiers on the high ground, firing down into the trapped Vrexians. "Take cover!" Towson roared. "Return. Fire!" But there was no adequate cover in the valley floor. His soldiers tried to use rocks and fallen trees, but the human positions were too well prepared. They had planned this perfectly. Towson saw a group of humans coordinating their fire with hand signals. One of them was marking targets with some kind of laser designator. Seconds later, human actual artillery, projectiles launched from kilometers away started falling among the Vrexian positions. Artillery. His communication officer shouted unnecessarily, "They have working artillery." The intelligence. Reports had said the orbital bombardment destroyed most human heavy weapons. The intelligence reports had been wrong about many things. The artillery barrage lasted 10 minutes. In that time, Towson lost 30 soldiers. The survivors were shell-shocked and demoralized. These were elite Vrexian infantry, veterans of multiple campaigns, and they were breaking. "Move! Keep moving!" Towson ordered. "If we stay here, we die." The column pushed through the kill zone, taking casualties with every step. The humans on the ridges repositioned constantly, always maintaining fire superiority. They were using combined arms, tactics, infantry, explosives, artillery, and mortar working together in deadly harmony. When the Vrexians finally cleared the valley, they had lost half of their remaining force. 60 soldiers out of the original 200 had survived. "Commander Korvash, this is Battalion 7, Towson transmitted, his voice hoarse. "We have taken severe casualties. Requesting immediate air support for the final approach to Rally Point Beta." "Negative, Battalion 7, all air assets are engaged. You will have to reach the rally point on your own." "On their own?" "Against an enemy that never stopped, never rested, never gave up." The final kilometers to the rally point took 4 more hours. The humans harassed them the entire way, never launching a full attack, just bleeding them slowly. By the time Towson's group reached the fortified position, they numbered 40 soldiers. 40 out of 200 inside the rally point. Thousands of Vrexian soldiers waited, preparing for the final evacuation. The campaign was over. They had lost. Towson found a quiet corner and sat down, his rifle across his knees. His hands were shaking. A medical officer approached and scanned him. "You are physically unharmed," the medic said. "But I recommend psychological evaluation when we return to the fleet." Towson nodded absently. He was thinking about Young Su, the medic who had helped his enemies. About Jae Hyun, who had endured capture without breaking. About Su Jin, standing fearlessly in the line of fire. About all the humans who had fought with a ferocity that defied logic, and yet showed mercy when they did not have to. The humans had not won through superior technology. They had won through something far more dangerous: absolute refusal to surrender. The evacuation began at dawn. Drop ships descended through smoke and ash, loading Vrexian soldiers as quickly as possible. The humans had not attacked the rally point directly. They did not need to. They simply waited in the forest, watching. Knowing the invaders were leaving, Towson stood in line with his surviving soldiers, watching the chaos around him. Medical teams rushed between wounded soldiers. Officers shouted orders that nobody seemed to follow. The organized military machine that had arrived on Earth 3 weeks ago had become a desperate mob trying to escape. "Next ship!" A loading officer called. Towson's group moved forward. They climbed into the dropship's cargo bay, strapping themselves into the crash harnesses. The ship was designed for 40 soldiers. They packed in 60. Nobody complained. They just wanted to leave this cursed planet. The ship lifted off, engines screaming. Through the small viewport, Tauxon saw the rally point shrinking below. He saw the forests still burning in places from the fighting. He saw the human positions on the surrounding hills, small figures watching the Vrexians retreat. Then he saw something that made his heart stop. A human soldier stood on a ridge, clearly visible against the sky. Even at this distance, Tauxon recognized the stance, the uniform markings. It was Hyan Wu, the Marine sergeant from the first day of combat. The human who had charged a Vrexian position alone. The human who had been shot multiple times and survived. Hyan Wu raised his hand in what might have been a salute or a wave. Then he turned and disappeared into the forest. He survived, Tauxon whispered. Commander? His second-in-command asked. Nothing. The dropship climbed toward orbit, breaking through the atmosphere. Below, Earth became a blue and white sphere again. Beautiful and terrible. Entering orbital space, the pilot announced. Multiple contacts. Human spacecraft engaging the fleet. Tauxon pulled up the tactical display on his ARM computer. What he saw made his blood freeze. The human spacecraft were outdated by galactic standards. Their hulls were metal instead of composite materials. Their weapons fired solid projectiles instead of energy beams. By all logical assessment, they should have been destroyed in the first minutes of combat, but logic did not apply to humans. A Vrexian destroyer, massive and powerful, exchanged fire with a human cruiser that was half its size. The human ship took hit after hit, its hull rupturing, atmosphere venting into space. Any sane species would have retreated. The human ship accelerated. What is it doing? Someone asked. Tauxon knew before it happened. It is ramming. The human cruiser slammed into the Vrexian destroyer at full speed. The impact tore both ships apart in a ball of fire and debris. Hundreds of lives ended in an instant. The destroyer worth more resources than entire planets destroyed by a suicidal attack. Captain G1, came a transmission from the doomed human ship just before impact. It has been an honor serving with you all. For Earth? Tauxon's translator rendered the human phrase awkwardly, but the meaning was clear. These humans would die, but they would take their enemies with them. Multiple human fighter craft approaching, the pilot warned. Engaging evasive maneuvers. Small attack craft, tiny things made of metal and primitive fuel, swarmed around the Vrexian fleet like angry insects. They fired missiles that should not have been effective against shielded warships. But the humans had learned. They targeted the shield generators first, then the exposed systems. One fighter squadron, led by a pilot named Sangwoo, according to the communication intercepts, attacked a Vrexian flagship. 20 human fighters against a ship that could destroy cities. The tactical computer predicted total human casualties within 4 minutes. The humans lasted 7 minutes. In that time, they crippled the flagship's main drive and destroyed 3 of its 4 shield generators. Only 4 human fighters survived the attack, but they had accomplished their mission. These humans fight like they have nothing to lose, the second-in-command said quietly. They have already lost everything, Tauxon replied. We bombarded their cities, killed millions of them. Now they are fighting for revenge, for memory, so that we will never forget what it cost to attack their world. The fleet began jumping to faster-than-light speed, escaping Earth's orbit in sections. Tauxon's transport ship was in the third wave. As they prepared to jump, he watched the tactical display showing the ongoing battle. Human ships continued attacking even as the Vrexians retreated. A damaged human destroyer, its weapons destroyed and its hull breached in a dozen places, used its remaining engine power to position itself between a fleeing Vrexian transport and a human naval station. The human commander, woman named Haewon, transmitted to the transport. You have wounded aboard. We will not fire on a medical ship. Go. The Vrexian transport jumped away. Mercy, Tauxon thought. Even now, after everything, they show mercy to those who cannot fight. Jump in 10 seconds, the pilot announced. Tauxon took one last look at Earth through the viewport. The planet where the mighty Vrexian Empire had been humbled, where thousands of his comrades had died, where he had learned that technological superiority meant nothing against a species that simply refused to quit. The stars stretched into lines. The ship entered faster than light travel. Earth vanished behind them. In the transport's medical bay, Tauxon found the survivors of his battalion receiving treatment. Some had physical wounds. Others, like him, had wounds that no scanner could detect. "Commander," one of the young soldiers said, "will we return? Will the Empire send another fleet?" Tauxon considered lying. Considered telling the soldier that they would return with overwhelming force and finish what they started. But he was tired of lies. "No," he said quietly. "We will not return. But we are the Vrexian Empire. We have never failed to conquer. We failed." Tauxon sat down heavily on a medical cot. "The humans cannot build ships as fast as us. They cannot match our weapons or our shields. But they have something we do not." "What?" "They would rather die than surrender. Every single one of them. We can kill billions of humans and the survivors will still fight. We can destroy their cities and they will fight from the ruins. We can orbital bombard their world until it is nothing but ash, and the last human alive will still be fighting." The young soldier looked confused. "Then how do we defeat them?" "We do not." Tauxon closed his eyes. "We leave them alone. We add Earth to the charts with a warning: do not engage. Do not provoke. Do not invade. Because the cost of defeating humanity is the complete destruction of both species. And humans are willing to pay that cost. Are you?" The soldier had no answer. The journey back to Vrexian space took 3 weeks. During that time, reports filtered through the fleet about the final casualty numbers. The Empire had sent 50,000 soldiers to Earth. Fewer than 20,000 returned. The naval losses were equally devastating. 37 ships destroyed, twice that number damaged beyond immediate repair. And what had they gained? Nothing. Earth remained free. The humans remained undefeated. Commander Corvash addressed the fleet once before they reached home. His message was brief. The campaign did not achieve its objectives. We underestimated the enemy's capacity for resistance. This failure rests on my command decisions. A full inquiry will be conducted. Tauxon listened to the speech with bitter amusement. Corvash spoke of mistakes and miscalculations. He did not speak the truth that they had encountered a species that could not be conquered through conventional warfare. That humanity had taught the Vrexian Empire a lesson 3 millennia of conquest had not. Some species would rather burn than Bodot when they finally docked at the orbital station above the Vrexian homeworld. Tauxon was processed through standard debriefing. Medical evaluation, psychological assessment, equipment inventory. All the routine procedures of a returning military unit, but nothing about this felt routine. As Tauxon left the debriefing center, an intelligence officer approached him. "Commander Tauxon, you are being reassigned. The military academy has requested your service as an instructor." "An instructor?" "Yes, they want officers who fought on Earth to teach the next generation." "So this never happens again." Tauxon looked out the observation window at his homeworld. Below, safe, secure, unchanged. By the war that had scarred him forever. Except, he said, because someone had to tell the truth about humanity. Someone had to make sure that future Vrexian officers understood what they had learned at such terrible cost. Never fight humans on their home ground. Never underestimate their willingness to sacrifice. Never assume that superior technology guarantees victory, and never, ever forget that some species cannot be conquered, only respected. 10 cycles had passed since the Earth campaign. 10 years of Vrexian time, which translated to roughly 12 years of human time. Tauxon stood before a classroom of young cadets at the Vrexian Military Academy, his teaching uniform pressed and perfect. The students looked at him with a mixture of respect and curiosity. They knew he was a veteran of the Earth War. They did not know what that truly meant. Today we study the Battle of the Pacific Northwest, Tauxon began, activating the holographic display. Some of you will have heard stories about the humans. Some of those stories are exaggerations. Most are understatements. The display showed a tactical map of the forest where Tauxon had fought. Red markers indicated Vrexian positions. Blue markers showed human forces. The blue markers outnumbered the red by the end of the engagement. This was the first major ground engagement of the war, Tauxon continued. We landed with 200 soldiers. 40 survived to reach the evacuation point. Can anyone tell me what we did wrong? A young cadet raised her hand. Poor intelligence, Professor. We did not know the humans' true capabilities. Partially correct, but intelligence failures happen in every war. The real mistake was deeper. We assumed that technology determines victory. We were wrong. Tauxon pulled up casualty figures. The numbers told a story of catastrophic miscalculation. The Vrexian Empire had never lost a planetary invasion. We had conquered 7 species before encountering humanity. All of them surrendered when faced with superior force. We expected humans to do the same. But they did not, another cadet said. No, they fought for 3 weeks. They lost millions of civilians to orbital bombardment. They lost thousands of soldiers. They lost aircraft, tanks, ships, entire cities. And they never considered surrendering. Not once. Tauxon changed the display to show human defensive positions. Study these tactics. Small unit actions. Guerrilla warfare. Psychological operations. The humans turned their technological disadvantage into an advantage by refusing to fight on our terms. He told them about Young Su, the medic who treated both sides. About Jae Hyan, who survived alone in hostile territory for days. About Sujin, who operated her vehicle's weapons while completely exposed to enemy fire. About Hyan Wu, who survived wounds that should have killed him. These were not exceptional humans, Tauxon said. These were average soldiers. This is what humanity is capable of when defending their home. A cadet asked the question they were all thinking, Professor, are humans really that dangerous? The war ended years ago. Surely they have moved on? Tauxon smiled grimly. Let me tell you what humanity has done in the 10 cycles since we left their system. He pulled up new intelligence reports. The cadets leaned forward, fascinated. Humanity has built 60 new warships. They have established defensive stations around their planet and their moon. They have reverse-engineered our shield technology. They have begun exploring their neighboring star systems. And this is most important, they have made contact with 3 other species and established peaceful relations with all of them. Peaceful? A cadet asked, surprised. Yes, the same humans who fought us with such ferocity have become diplomats and traders. They share their technology. They offer assistance to species in need. The galactic community is fascinated by them. Tauxon changed the display again, showing footage from the Galactic Council chambers. A human woman named Ba-Ra stood at the speaker's podium, addressing representatives from dozens of species. She spoke calmly, eloquently, about cooperation and mutual benefit. This is Ambassador Ba-Ra, Tauxon explained. She is from the same nation that produced the soldiers who fought in the Pacific Northwest. Watch how the other species react to her presence. The footage showed alien representatives physically keeping their distance from Ba-Ra. Their body language radiated caution, even fear. Yet they listened to her words with complete attention. Humanity has earned respect through combat, Tauxon said. Now they are earning respect through diplomacy. This is what makes them truly dangerous. They can destroy you or they can befriend you, and you never know which you will face until it is too late. He showed them more footage. Admiral One-Shik, commanding humanity's first deep space fleet. The human warships patrolling former conflict zones, preventing piracy and smuggling. Other species gave these ships wide clearance, remembering what happened when the Vrexian Empire underestimated humanity. There is a saying that has spread through the galaxy, Tauxon said. Never fight humans in their home system. Never fight them when they are defending something they love. And if you must fight them, make peace quickly because humans never forget, and they never forgive, and they will pursue you across space itself to make you pay. A cadet raised his hand. Professor, have you had contact with humans since the war? Towson hesitated. This was personal, not part of the official curriculum. But the question deserved an answer. Yes, he said quietly. 2 cycles ago, I received a message from Earth, from a human named Hyun Woo. The classroom went silent. Hyun Woo was the Marine sergeant I encountered on the first day of the ground campaign. He survived the war. He is now a training instructor, teaching the next generation of human soldiers. Much like I am doing here. Towson pulled up the message on his personal display. Translating it for the cadets. Commander Towson, I hope this message finds you well. I learned recently that you survived the war and are now teaching at your military academy. I wanted to reach out because I believe we share a unique perspective. We both fought in a war neither side truly won. I am teaching my students about the Vrexian Empire, about your tactics and your courage. Yes, courage. You were following orders, defending what you believed was right, just as we were. There was honor in your service, even if the cause was unjust. If you ever wished to visit Earth, you would be welcomed with great respect. We have built a memorial to the soldiers who died in the war, all soldiers, including yours. We believe that those who die in service deserve to be remembered, regardless of which side they fought for. I hope that one day, our species can move beyond what happened. Not forget, never forget, but move forward together. Respectfully, Hyun Woo. The classroom remained silent after Towson finished reading. Several cadets looked uncomfortable. The idea of honoring enemy dead was foreign to Vrexian culture. I did not respond to this message for 6 months, Towson admitted. I did not know how to respond. The humans we fought were fearsome enemies. The idea of them showing mercy, of them building memorials to Vrexian soldiers seemed impossible. Did you eventually respond? A cadet asked. Yes, I told him that I would consider visiting Earth, that perhaps understanding between our species was possible. And I thanked him for treating our fallen with dignity. Towson closed the display and faced his students directly. This is the final lesson about humanity. They are capable of terrible violence. They can fight with a ferocity that borders on insanity. They will sacrifice themselves without hesitation for their cause. But they are also capable of forgiveness, of mercy, of seeing their enemies as people rather than targets. He paused, making sure every cadet was paying attention. This duality makes them unpredictable. It makes them dangerous in ways that pure aggression never could. Because you can plan for an enemy who wants to destroy you. You cannot plan for an enemy who might destroy you or might befriend you, depending on circumstances you do not fully understand. A young cadet raised her hand. Professor, if humans are so dangerous, should we not prepare for another conflict? Build better weapons, better tactics? No, Towson said firmly. We should prepare for peace. Because war with humanity has only one outcome: mutual devastation. They proved they would rather die than surrender. We proved we lacked the will to exterminate an entire species. Therefore, the only logical course is coexistence. He brought up the final image, a photograph from Earth showing the memorial Hyun Woo had mentioned. It was a wall of stone, carved with names. Thousands of names. Human and Vrexian, listed together without distinction. This memorial stands in what used to be a battlefield, Towson said softly. Humans built it 5 cycles after the war ended. They invited Vrexian families to visit, to see where their loved ones fell. Some families accepted. I am told the humans welcomed them with open arms, shared meals with them, mourned with them. Why would they do that? A cadet asked, genuinely confused. Because humans understand something we are only beginning to learn. That soldiers on both sides of a war are still people. That the enemy is not abstract evil, but individuals following orders, protecting their families, doing what they believe is right. Humans do not hate us for fighting them. They hate what we try to do: conquer them, take away their freedom. but they recognized that individual soldiers were not responsible for those decisions. Tauxon looked at each cadet in turn. You are the future of the Vrexian Empire. You will encounter many species in your service. Some will be stronger than us. Some will be weaker. Humanity is neither, they are different. They are persistence made into flesh. They are determination given form. And they are now part of the galactic community, whether we like it or not. He deactivated the holographic display. Class dismissed. Study the materials I have provided. Next session, we will analyze specific human tactical innovations and how to counter them.